chegou agora o tempo de abrirmos uma nova janela. EMBRAER. Vamos lançar João Taborda.
Bom dia.
Bom dia. A emissão é sua.
Bom dia a todos. É um prazer enorme, uma honra muito grande para a EMBRAER, para o Grupo EMBRAER e para dentro do Grupo EMBRAER, a OGMA, que mais uma vez associa a sua marca ao Portugal Air Summit. É uma honra muito grande. Eu sou dos poucos neste momento, talvez, que estou a viajar, por isso não tenho a honra e o prazer enorme de estar em Ponte Sor, mas não quero deixar de enviar um cumprimento muito especial em nome do Grupo EMBRAER ao Sr. Presidente da Câmara, Hugo Hilário, e de facto ao trabalho que é feito e sobretudo este ano toda a comunidade aeronáutica em Portugal, a mobilização que houve em termos de tornar possível estes eventos tão importantes para, mesmo encontrando-nos menos fisicamente, pelo menos trocarmos ideias e fazermos um ponto de situação de um cenário que realmente era difícil ou quase impossível de prever, mas no qual temos que navegar e procurar as oportunidades e talvez passarmos de uma situação em que nos preparamos para um cenário mais previsível ou mais específico, para nos passarmos a estarmos preparados quase para uma variedade de cenários. Eu irei fazer a minha apresentação em inglês, também para os colegas estrangeiros que estão ligados, e mais uma vez é uma honra muito grande. Switching to English, we are in fact in a very unique situation. At the moment, as we saw from the presentation of IATA, there's a big effort, probably a level of mobilization from the stakeholders to take the concern and sometimes some fear out of the system, to put people back in the airplanes, and certainly the effort on the testing to avoid quarantine is a first step. Then the second step, of course, is to take off, to have the planes taking off from the tarmac, where many of them are today. For us as an aircraft manufacturer as well, to make sure we are in touch with our customers to take the airplanes that they already ordered and get ready for future orders in some time. The future was always difficult to predict, but this time is even more difficult. So we don't dare much about predicting about the future. It's challenging. We need to adapt. We need to be prepared, roll up our sleeves and move on and see where are the opportunities. So this is very much about two slides about the history of EMBRAER Group. Of course, as a 51-year-old company, we started as a state-owned company in Brazil. We were privatized in 1994. A couple of lessons from the own privatization of EMBRAER in Brazil that we took in 2004 to Portugal in the privatization of HOGMA, that has been a very important actor within the EMBRAER Group, the basis for more things that we did in Portugal, like our investment in Évora, the participation of Portugal in the C390 Millennium. So this has been a very important process. So we are leaders in commercial aviation up to 140 seats. So, and certainly we look at our heritage. This is an industry that requires stamina. There has been a lot of crises. There have been a lot of testing to the resilience of the players. We're probably in one of the biggest, if not the biggest. We have to respond, predict, to think, and work together in response to it. And we know how innovation is part of that. And of course, I'm going to cover briefly aspects like sustainability, like products, where we are in terms of products, what is important in this time of uncertainty, and certainly a very important role that we see today in services. And again, OGMA is a very important player within the EMBRAER Group regarding services. But there are numbers coming already from 2018 and 19 that probably the pandemic is also bringing new challenges and also maybe new opportunities in terms of services. Again, a segment we should not deconsider because it is something highly relevant. So starting with innovation, you saw recently some announcement and also some presentations by EMBRAER, our urban mobility company. More recently, there was an announcement on the first spin-off of EMBRAER called Eve in Melbourne in the United States, together with our company ATEC, to speed up and the development of one of our platforms in terms of urban mobility. So this is new markets, new products for new markets in terms of our innovation matrix. We have already the known markets and the known products like the E2 that we manufacture very important parts in our plants in Évora, and also other areas like the C390 Millennium in a known market as defense and security, but a new product highly relevant in terms of suddenly the most sophisticated and bigger aircraft made in Brazil and in Latin America. Another area is less known today for the public. We have a satellite company. We have one of the largest border surveillance programs in the world. So these are our 5 plus 5, our 10 what we call innovation verticals. Again, areas where we see potential for innovation. We certainly invite all the time colleagues around the world to see what is your interest in these areas. How do you think we can work together? Because these are, in our view, the 10 areas, 10 big drivers for the future of the industry. With the pandemic, without the pandemic, this is really the innovation direction for our industry. And again, we have to look at also disruptive innovation. And again, EMBRAER is an example of what we're doing. We are together with Eve. We have already some what we call outposts in several points of the world, and we will expand that. And there is no time for hesitation. With pandemic or without pandemic, these trends are coming, and we need to put our engineering, our good partnerships in service to these key areas to speed up and to have this type of platforms and solutions ready for the future. Without, of course, as I mentioned before, overlooking sustainability. The expectation is there, despite the scenario we are in the industry, all the industries in. There is a drive and a strong innovation drive related again with sustainability. So that is a commitment made by the industry that will continue. So we look at electrification, hybrid propulsion, hydrogen, all these type of technologies probably in some cases will be accelerated because of the pandemic. So just briefly to mention some notes about our product. So we do planes for airlines. It's one of our areas, big source of business. We see these products as a platform. There is, of course, work being done. We just heard in the previous panel talking about the perspectives of the cabin crew. There are solutions being developed by partners to bring a correct level of comfort in many senses in the cabin. So it's a very important area for innovation. Many discussions going on in the industry in this particular area. The industry came together, we and another 2 manufacturers. There are papers circulating of easy access in the internet explaining about the absence or the absence of risk and how the air circulates in the cabin to have people informed about how comfortable they could be in an aircraft cabin. Executive aviation was less impacted in the way by the pandemic. There are people, of course, with the means to do it, buying some aircraft if they can do it, to avoid airports, to have more certainty in terms of connections. But of course, this is not the majority. The impact was less severe, but again, there are different scenarios in different segments. In defense and security, we know, of course, we are following the governments are under severe pressure in terms of defense spending, but we also know that some countries are flying more. the connection between the armed forces and the society in this type of in this time of pandemic became stronger. We saw several cases, even the Brazilian Air Force. OGMA was very involved with the Brazilian Air Force in Brazil on the ground to support aircraft supporting operations for the Brazilian Air Force related with the pandemic in Brazil. The C-390 Millennium made a humanitarian flight to Lebanon related with the port explosion early in August. So in a way, this is less related with the pandemic, probably would happen anyway, but these are examples how this type of solutions bring people closer to the armed forces. So we see even some countries, this is not a trend, but probably not an identified trend, but we see some countries increasing even their defense budget depending on the particular scenario. So I mentioned, we know Portugal, we were very proud and happy. 22nd of August last year, Portugal signed its contract for the C-390 Millennium. We also have an important platform, the A-29, the train and light attack, the Super Tucano. And of course, we have OGMA hosts a demonstrator aircraft in Alverca for demonstrating flights of this platform. So again, an important connection and integration between OGMA and EMBRAER. And OGMA, again, is a very important company in our integrated portfolio. And just for your knowledge, we have a system company, I mentioned it before, they are partners with Eve in the EMBRAER X program. Savish is responsible for the border surveillance project in Brazil, and Visiona is our space company. And of course, OGMA pretty much in the center of our operation in Europe and a big player in terms of services. So before I finish with some final notes, and as mentioned, maybe there are reasons at the moment to take a look at services. Some aircraft are on the ground. Some aircraft will have to be intervened, of course, to go back to the air. Some aircraft are flying more, especially some military aircraft, sometimes they are flying more. So services was already, and it is, continues to be a very important activity and source of business. Let me share with you the numbers of the EMBRAER group. As you can see, already in 2018, 1/5 of our business figures were coming already from services and support to the customer. There was a very minor change from 18 to 19, but you see how important is the slice of business coming from services. So, and we in the EMBRAER group, either with OGMA, Nashville in the United States, Le Bourget in France, we try to reflect in our services our culture and the passion and the commitment that is a very important trace of our culture in the EMBRAER group. We have progress, of course. This is also an invitation for the attendees of the Portugal Air Summit. We are, of course, we are open to receive ideas. We know how important digitalization will be for the industry. The maintenance 4.0, as you want to call support 4.0, will be very, very important. There is space to integrate digital solutions also into service, into products, and also into service. So if you look at the lower end of my slide, decision-making training system, what we call the hangar of the future, and design for maintenance, which is thinking already deeply about the maintenance when you are designing the aircraft. So not leaving for later to think how it's going to be maintained. From minute one to integrate what will be the maintenance of this aircraft as you design an EMBRAER X. Of course, some of these concepts we are looking into new products like what we're doing in EMBRAER X. So, and we look at all the angles in our Tech Care program in terms of services. I mean, support to flight operations, our academy, materials, maintenance, and modification. So this is about four major steps. Firstly, never stop, always fly beyond, develop a knowledge base also for services, plan correctly in terms of services, and maintain a culture and a state of readiness. So as we have this in our group. Again, our service centers like OGMA in Alverca are in the middle of this effort in keeping our structure agile, mobile, and increase the expertise and the knowledge through products and solutions to support the customers, make sure they never stop, to fly beyond, to increase the use of assets, to have a big support to also to operations, to correctly analyze data, to integrate solutions to analyze data, and to know when is needed to intervene an airplane and be more on the predictive side of things. We also have our approach in terms of academy. There are many initiatives in the group and also in OGMA itself. OGMA has the OGMAthon and very active in this particular area, specifically in Portugal. We heard in the previous panel about the challenges for have talent ready. This is the same, absolutely the same for these angles, and to prepare people and to keep and develop our talent and to have it ready to address the challenges also in services. And again, the access and the planning is very important. Just in time is there, lean, all those tools are important. Inventory is money. So there was never been a better, most important time to optimize all that. So again, a very interesting field, services at the moment to improve that. And of course, as mentioned before, ready for takeoff in a normal circumstance, and also when aircraft which were parked for some time now need to take off. We have our tools, we have our products also to be close to customers to have this ready. So keeping our experience, having the readiness, and be fast in responding to customers. So I just mentioned how important this is in terms of our presence. I mentioned before our center in Le Bourget in Portugal, OGMA in Alverca, which is a main joint venture. We have services for pilot training in the United Kingdom, and also joint ventures in Mexico and in Brazil, again, in border surveillance, in systems, and in space. Financial health, final minutes, important. Resilience is important. This was our figure last year, and you cannot stop investing. And these were our figures for the last couple of years. But we know when the tide is back up, you need to be ready. So you need to find the resources. You need to find to have a good plan, and to have your resources to continue to invest and to be ready. So. And this is how we look and we pursue our goal of being the best and most efficient aerospace and defense company in the world. That is what we want to achieve. We're not going there alone. We will need to continue to go there with the right partners, the good ideas. And of course, again, we are at the time where that has to be there, has to be speed up. We all need to be smarter and faster and target the resilience of the whole system. So again, thank you very much for the invitation, for the EMBRAER Group, for OGMA. Always a pleasure, and a big and sympathetic word again for the Portugal Art Summit, for all the people making it possible, especially this year is a huge challenge, but it's a highly valuable event, and we are so happy and proud to be part of it. So thank you very much for your attention.